Hello, I'm Doodle and welcome to my attempt at a Pokemon White randomized Nuzlocke. Let's jump straight into the rules, though if you want to skip any parts of this video, there should be timestamps underneath. Let's start by saying that this challenge is set to easy mode. I'm super impatient and I'm super reckless, and both are terrible traits to have to do a Nuzlocke, so things like healing items in battle is going to be allowed. Standard rules though, I can only catch one Pokemon per route and it must be the first Pokemon I see, but there are a couple of exceptions to this. The first is I'm not doing duplicates even if the original dies. If I get a Mewtwo and then it dies, and I somehow get the chance to catch another one, I have to let it go and catch something else, even though it's gonna suck. The second exception is that places like Sky Arrow Bridge exist, where you can't catch a Pokemon anywhere on the entire route, and in that example I caught a second Pokemon in Pinwheel Forest, a bit before where there was a separate loading screen. There are gift Pokemon in the game, and fossils, but I've randomized all of them, so I'm gonna say I'm allowed to keep them. The final rule, although I haven't enforced it whatsoever, is to not drastically overlevel my Pokemon. If I fight the first trainer in a gym and we're like roughly the same level, I have to go for it. I tried to stay within about 5 levels of my opponents throughout, though I'm sure I messed up a few times where the trainer levels went up and then dipped again. It usually happens after a gym fight. I have attempted Nuzlockes before, but admittedly I've never beaten the first gym due to being careless and rushing and ending up with too few Pokemon. If you enjoy this episode at any point, please give it a like. I really want this series to do well because I've had so much fun making it. And let's see how this goes by choosing our very first Pokemon. Our starter choices were Caterpie, Badoo and Roggenrola. And this is a good point to say I'm probably going to butcher a lot of pronunciations. I'm very sorry and feel free to correct me in the comments below. I was honestly thinking about picking Badoo because I really like its final evolution and my first ever Pokemon was Turtwig, so I have a soft spot for grass types. I went with my gut though, and I chose Roggenrola, after which my two friends, Cheron and Bianca, challenged me to a Pokemon battle. Anne. I forgot I randomized the names too. Anne had chosen Caterpie, and it was at this point I realised my Roggenrola was a little bit of a special case. It transforms into the type of whatever move has hit it last, making my mental calculations of, oh, are you going to survive this attack, a lot harder. We destroyed Bian, and next up was Christine. He sent out Badoo, and the battle was a bit harder due to some cheesy confusion attacks, but our little rock pulled through to win 2 for 2, leveling up to level 7. Now, I guess we should go and thank the professor for our Pokemon, and more importantly give them names. This is important in a Pokemon Nuzlocke as every single Pokemon has to be named so that you grow attached to them. We all lined up, and after a bit of deliberation, I named my starter Scoria. You can look it up, I'm not teaching geology here. After she released us from the lab to go on a journey or something, it was time to catch our second Pokemon. Anything could be waiting for us in that grass, and I ran in super excited to be greeted with a Hoppip. A level 2 Hoppip, to be specific. Whilst not the weakest Pokemon I could have encountered, it's pretty close, and it's certainly in the bottom 10%. Even more worryingly, its next 2 evolutions can both be found in the weaker 50% of the entire Pokemon list. I named her Radish, because she looks like a radish, and then it was time for some leveling. This mostly meant switch training, as I didn't trust Radish to be able to tank even one hit. There were a few good fights where a level 4 Radish managed to kill a Wingull all on her own. Also some really bad ones, like where she almost died to a Solosis, getting down to 3 HP before taking it down with a very, very risky Vine Whip. This is the reason why all of my previous Nuzlockes failed. I am a very lazy gamer. After a lot of grind, I managed to get the girls to level 7 and 8 respectively, and then rejoined Bian and Chireen, which is what I'm going to call them from now on. Professor Juniper decided now was the time for an insanely patronising tour around the Pokemon Center, and once I managed to escape, I was pulled into some boring lecture by Snow White and his 7 space cadets. I'm not great at staying awake in lectures, so I'm going to summarise for you guys. It was like, blah blah blah, Pokemon should be released, blah blah, apply to join only if you have red hair or something like that. And afterwards, some kid came over and started talking about wanting to listen to my Pokemon. Okay, time to teach him a thing or two about personal space the only way we know how. By confusing his Pokemon and then throwing rocks. Please don't actually try this in real life. You will get the personal space you wanted, but only because you're in prison. We've been away from home for 5 minutes and I'm already having to give disclaimers. Oh no, here's our mum. Mum, look, I didn't mean to throw rocks. I just tripped and then my Pokemon... Oh, you want to give me running shoes? Awesome! Thank you! Don't worry about what I was talking about before, you have a safe journey home. Time to add another Pokemon to the team. I headed into the grass, praying for something decent, and came across a Hoot Hoot. Not too bad, and I quite like flying types. Welcome to the team. And another girl too, even better. I named her Egg because I'm unimaginative, and then you know what time it is. It's grind time again. Egg proved to be pretty good and leveled up in no time, but not before I had face planted these old people enough times to never want to show my face in society ever again. It's time for our first trainer battle out in the wild. That's trainer... Pansy. He sent out Swinub, and this is a good time to say that I spent most of these battles with a type chart up. Who can remember what ice is like against flying or against itself? No one. Don't lie. I finally decided my best shot was my colour changed rock friend, who became an ice type after just one attack and then squished the little piggy with her signature rock throws. With that fight a success, I went to heal up, face planting that old lady again. And then her husband on the way back. This happened every time I went to a Pokemon Center, it was so painful. Time for more fights. Blast Lawrence sent out a Bronzor, and I seriously struggled to remember if it's a Psychic type, Steel or Ice. I tested an Air Cutter with Egg, and got the answer I needed, but I decided to keep her in as I knew she could do it. She did get down to 5 health at one point, but I healed her up and let her take down the opponent solo. Shortly after that fight in some long grass, we encountered a Krogunk, who got Egg to level 9. It's at this point that she learned Chatter, usually only learned by the Pokemon Chatot, which is a pretty decent attack and causes confusion. There was one more trainer to face on this route, and although he was yelling something about Lillipup, his Pokemon was actually a Sandile. Even though its Fake Out did quite a bit of damage, I kept Egg in, and her flying moves won the battle easily. It's time to catch up with our friends again, and for some reason Bian wants to battle us. I hadn't actually properly healed up, but her Wynaught was 4 levels lower than Egg, so I decided we were probably okay. 2 chapters later, and I was right. It passed out, and out came her Caterpie, which Egg obviously destroyed. Poor Bian left to train up some more, and we made our way into the new city to heal up the crew. I did spend a bit of time trying to sneak past an old dude to a new route to catch another Pokemon, but failed, so walked around some hedges collecting some items and then moved over to the Dream Yard instead. We can get a gift Pokemon here, but only after battling a few trainers. For the first one, I actually used Radish for once against their Tynamo, then realised it was a massive mistake and finished up the battle with Scoria instead. Their second Pokemon was a Blitzel, but Rock Smash took care of them pretty quickly. The next fight saw Egg face off against 2 Shedinja and a Litwick, in one of the fastest fights I've had so far, and then it was time to meet our new friend. This Pokemon trainer usually gives you an elemental monkey, so for example, say the game thought that you had a water type as your first Pokemon, it would give you a grass type to make up for its weakness. In this playthrough, it's randomized, and she actually gave us a Cofagrigus. We named our new living coffin friend Cleo after the pharaoh, and I was pretty happy. This is one of the Pokemon I'm not really keen on the design for. I've never really liked Pokemon based on random objects like Vanillish or Klefki, And I'm really curious to see you guys' opinion on object Pokemon in general. However, Cleo has Hex and is a fully evolved ghost type, and I've got nothing to complain about this early in a run. Also, she's a girl. The girl squad is growing. Currently, our team's levels are at 9 for Radish, 10 for Cleo, and 11 for Scoria and Egg. We went to the trainer school, looking for the gym leader, and ended up being dragged into a battle with Chireen instead. Cleo's first move as our Pokemon was to one-hit kill his Riolu, so I already knew she was going to be a carry for the series. This is a good time to say that sometimes I do keep Pokemon in battle just to level them up. I know that's risky, and Egg would have been able to kill this Badoo at lightning speed. However, I like everyone to be pretty close in levels, so try not to roast me too hard. Each gym in this series has a type. This one's a bit different, as there are 3 possible gym leaders at the end, but generally speaking, the Pokemon of the first trainer you fight will tell you the type for the entire gym. In this case, all the trainers up to the first gym leader were going to be electric type, meaning Egg isn't going to be any use to us here. We're also a tad underleveled, considering the first Pokemon we fought was level 11. That means the gym leader will have a level 13 or maybe 14 as their ace. The little puzzle in this gym is easy enough to get through. What type beats the one on the curtain? And before I knew it, Cleo was facing off against Trainer 2's Mareep. She took it down but was low on health, so I switched to Scoria, who immediately turned into an electric type and threw rocks until the opponent went down. Okay, this seems pretty easy. 2 opponents down, but I don't really have anywhere to train up my Pokemon a couple of levels. And I hate how slow it is on low level wild ones, and we can't actually open up the Dream Yard properly until we get cut. You know what, we're taking the risk. Here we go. There are 3 gym leaders, and who we fight is based on the first Pokemon you chose. This game thinks that we chose a water type, so it looks like we're fighting Joey. First Pokemon out is a Vulpix, which means he's a fire type leader. I kept Cleo in, but Vulpix had some really cheesy moves along with a super effective Shadow Punch. Cleo also got a burn, but not knowing who to switch to, I used a potion to buy myself just a little bit of time. This was obviously not going to work whilst using Cleo, and a critical hit could kill her super easily, so I switched to Scoria and prayed that the colour change wouldn't change her into a ghost type as well and lead to her death. She also got confused right away, but threw down some stealth rocks to damage their ace when it came out. Next turn, she shook off the confusion again, throwing a rock and downing the opponent instantly. The next Pokemon was another Vulpix, but the stealth rocks gave us some early damage. I healed up Scoria, who tanked a Flame Wheel due to currently also being fire type, and we began throwing rocks. Joey healed up, but it was already clear Scoria was going to steamroll his team. And just like that, after a few rocks to the face, the Vulpix went down, getting Scoria to level 13. And that's our first gym badge. No casualties so far, and we got given the move Thundershock. Taking on this gym definitely gave me a false sense of confidence. Yes, that is foreshadowing for episode 2, and leaving the gym, some scientist person grabbed us and took us back to her lab, tasking us with finding some random stuff called Dream Mist. But with that first gym done, that is where I am leaving this episode. For the most part, this series will be 1 gym per episode. There might be a few exceptions if a lot of stuff happens, but I hope you enjoyed. In the comments below, let me know who your favourite Pokemon on the team is so far. In descending order on the left hand side, we've got Egg, Scoria, Cleo, and then Radish at the bottom. If you liked the episode, please do give the video a like. I adore Pokemon and I want to make more series like this. If you'd like to watch more content from the channel, there should be some videos floating above my head right about now that would interest you. And if you aren't already, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you here. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye!